Good morning or afternoon. Thank you all for joining us today. My name is Joanne Yanez. I'm the Executive Director for AANMC. And with us, we have Angela Whisker, who works with AANMC. She will be in the background helping answer some questions, and each of the residency directors, whom I will introduce in just a moment. Next slide. So this is the first of some residency events that are coming up our way. And so today we are going to be, so before we get started on what we're doing today, just to note, there is no continuing ed available for today. It's strictly informational. Next slide. So what we're going to be talking about today, I'll introduce our panel, and then they will cover some basics and nuts and bolts of the residency process and how you can best be prepared to be a strong applicant. We'll go through the process and timeline, and then we will take a Q&A period where you'll have a chance to ask some questions and get access to any resources that you may need to complete this process for yourself. Next slide. So with that, I will introduce our oh, I missed a slide. Sorry about that. Our panel with us today, we have Dr. Gary Garcia at Bastyr University, is the Director of Graduate Community Medicine, Dr. Dee Saunders, Dean of Graduate Medical Education and Clinical Affairs, Dr. Jasmine Carino, Associate Dean of Curriculum at CCNM, and Dr. Kevin Barnett, who is at Sonoran University and the Residency Director. And so hopefully between this amazing panel of people, we will be able to get you well prepared, get you on your way to feeling like you have a general grasp of what this process entails and how you can put your best foot forward. So with that, next slide. Dr. Carino.
Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you and to talk to you about the AANMC residencies and the next cycle for applications. So to start off, I want you to realize that the residencies are something that is quite organized and has opportunities for ensuring that we meet certain standards. And these standards are coordinated and defined by the Council on Naturopathic Medical Education, the CNME. And we also ensure that the AANMC committee, which is those people that you see around the table, as well as a few others, aim to ensure that we have continual improvement of the postgraduate experience. We can move on, please. So for those of you that are here, and for those of you that will be listening in a little bit later, and for those of you that want to share this information, there's really a lot to be gained for applying for a residency program. You know, the big bullet points are that you'll see more pathology. In a recent residency survey, we've been able to understand and see that definitely well over 80% have seen that residents are more clinically confident in comparison, primarily because they're seeing a wide range of patients, well over 500 often in their residency program, and they feel like they're receiving much more exposure as well as mentorship in that realm. They receive specialized training. You know, often when there's something you want to gain deeper knowledge in, you'll be able to investigate which residencies you'll be interested in and what their areas of focus is. And that will provide you a gateway for learning more. And then, of course, the crux of the residency program is not only to act in the interest of you gaining more clinical skills and knowledge and competence and confidence, but also having the mentorship and teachers that are available to you in order to understand how they practice somewhat differently or similarly, and ways that you can model their practice styles. Next slide, please. So what do residents do? Well, residents do quite a lot of things, but part of it is to ensure that you follow a professional program of self-study and guidance. And, you know, with the mentorship that's available to you, that you're able to do that in a manner that is progressive, as well as ensuring that you have support as you go through. Not only will you practice safe, effective, and compassionate patient care, but you will also be expected to participate in other areas that the CNME has required, but also to help round out your educational and experiential experience. That includes things like grand rounds, continuing education experiences, public and professional lecturing, as well as research and scholarly activities. Next slide, please. Sorry, I'm not seeing that slide. It's coming, I'm sure. Okay, there we go. So what do residents do? So it's a heavy workload. You're working anywhere from 40 to 60 hours per week. It's jam-packed, but it is able that the experience allows you to become quite clinically competent. You provide patient care and supportive services, and you learn the art of doctoring. Depending on the type of residency, you might be able to participate in committees such as the academic residencies, as well as be involved in patient care review activities when you have team-based care environments. Depending on the residency, you may also be involved in academic course instruction, as well as supervising students and clinical education. So in terms of resident salaries and benefits, one of the things that's great about a residency is that you actually receive a salary for your first year out. And that's not something to be taken lightly. And it's not just the salary you will get, you will receive benefits depending on the salary, which includes CE, as well as other things. So prior to and as you undergo the application process, it's important for you to understand the contract expectations and benefits. And it does include things like 10 days of paid time off per program year.
Hey, good morning. So is residency required? The short answer is no. It's not currently required for most states. There is one state that does require residency prior to becoming licensed and being able to practice, and there are a few other states that have that in their draft legislature at this point. But just want to kind of harken back to what Dr. Carino said, is that there's a lot of other value from the extra patient contacts and mentorship and education that make residency a great thing to do, even if it isn't required in our field. Next slide, please. So how do you become a competitive applicant? There are a couple of things on this slide I just wanted to call out. But overarching, think about how do you want to practice and what are the things that you're interested in. And those are the types of things that I would recommend that you got additional experience in. So if you're really interested in women's health, doing a lot of preceptorships at women's health clinics or attending conferences or other webinars and education in areas, that's how you're going to make your application stand out applying to potentially a women's health residency compared to other candidates. So now's a really good time, and we're going to talk about timeline and all the things to be doing, but now's a great time to pull out your CV and look at what you're highlighting on it. What rotations are you adding to it? Whether other additional experiences, research, et cetera, leadership activities. Those are the things that you really want to call out on that CV. Grades are important. They are not completely limiting, though, I will say. Transcripts will be attached to your application, but most sites are looking for a very well-rounded candidate, and certainly a candidate that maybe has some extra experience in the realm of whatever that residency is. So if you're interested in an academic residency, ensuring that you have opportunities highlighted on your CV that you were maybe a TA or a proctor or had other opportunities to teach, like peer tutoring. Let's see what else. Have some teaching and research background is beneficial. Organize it. There is an example in the document library that we'll discuss that has exactly how you should organize and lay out your CV. And try to get this done now while we're in the pre-application period. And again, we'll go over those dates in a bit. Next slide, please. Okay, so here we go, right into the next, the dates. So phase 1 and phase 2. So right now we are in phase 1. This is the time for you to create a profile on the residency portal and start poking around. What kind of information is on there? You can view a lot of other past sites that are on there. You can view the document library, prepare the documents that you are supposed to upload and attach to your application come phase 2. All of these things can be worked on now, and I highly recommend it because phase 2 is really fast. Phase 2 is when the applications or the job postings actually become live, and then you have a limited period of time to do all of the things necessary to officially apply to that site, and then that period ends. So you can really benefit from taking time during phase 1 to get a good chunk of your documents ready. And we'll go over all the different types of things that you can do. Next slide, please. So logging in now, creating a profile would be a great first start. There's another slide on this that'll show you, but there is an app that you can also download that will help you get notifications and important reminders. You can view the application checklist on the portal, explore residency sites that are already listed in there. If they're
Uh-oh, technical difficulties. I can keep going here where Dr. Saunders left off, and hopefully she'll be able to jump back on. Technology is great until it isn't. So where Dr. Saunders was talking about are the various different components of phase 1 here. So really right now, we're encouraging you to take a look, poke around, kick the tires, look at all of the various different things that we need, that you will need to create your entire process. The other thing that I wanted to bring forward is every single one of your programs has a career services office. They can help you with your CV. Use them. So they can review that CV, make sure that it's meeting the various guidelines that Dr. Saunders just mentioned. We also have videos that are being posted this entire week for Naturopathic Residency Week. So start exploring the sites. Many of the sites have included videos. Some of the current residents or former residents have also presented in some of those videos. So really start to do your homework. So now would be the best time for you to get your foundational materials squared away, start to do that research, take a real gander at what each one of those sites is offering, and also do some introspection. What do you want for your career? What are your next steps for yourself going to look like? And what type of investment do you need to get there? Next slide, please. So in step 1, get started, create your profile. There is a good amount of kind of back-end work that you can do here to set up your profile in simplicity and make sure that everything that you need is ready to go. So we have a welcome to AANMC Residency system that will give you the instructions for what you need. Make sure, so this is like, if I can like bold and put off some fireworks right now, I would do that. So please make sure that the emails that come in from Simplicity don't end up in your spam folder, okay? So boom, 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 fireworks, whistles, all the things going off. Okay, because that is something that we have heard from applicants. Oh, well, I didn't know what the timeline was. They had no idea that the emails were going to spam. So please just do a couple of test runs, make sure that the emails are all being received, make sure that you check your emails regularly throughout this process, because we will be sending various different instructions and things of that sort via email. Next slide. So the other thing that is cool and new this year is the app. So we have an app that is available to everyone. I highly recommend that you download the app, turn on the notifications, because that's another way, if maybe you miss an email, that the notifications here will come forward. And that could be a way as well to just keep you on task, remind you of what has to come next. Next slide, please.
Okay, so welcome everybody, and good morning or good afternoon, wherever you are. So step 3, of course, is getting familiar with the portal itself. In this example over here, we have as if you are already logged in. And one of the things that you need to check out right away are the resources. And as you can see where the yellow arrow is, that's the resources tab. And if you click on that, it will show up the application checklist and the document library. There are tons of stuff in each of these. I'd really encourage that you all do this. And like, for example, in the application checklist, it'll give you a roadmap on where you are in the process. It's a self-guided piece, so just make sure that you follow it. And of course, if you don't have if you're not clear, always try to reach out to the AANMC, or if you also would like to, you can also reach out to your individual residency school directors. They'd be more than happy to help you out. Next slide, please. Okay, so step 4, as it says right there at the top, get familiar, log in. Logging in, of course, is the key piece here, as what Dr. Yanis had mentioned earlier. You want to make sure that the CSM emails that you've received is not in your spam folder. So you want to make sure that you have an active email account. So log in and look around. On the upper right-hand corner, you'll have different tabs. You'll have the resources tab, residency sites, etc., etc. So just be familiar with it. And one of the first things that I will really encourage everybody to really get familiar with in this application cycle, of course, is the timelines. Now, timelines are available in 3 different sites. In the home banner, as you can see, you can already click here, and there'll be a pop-up menu that gives you the individual timelines. You got to be familiar with this because the application process is a student-driven piece. You're responsible for everything. So if you miss a timeline, it's on you. So make sure that you're familiar with the timelines. It's also found in the resources tab under the documents library. And even if you go to the application checklist, it's also found there. And again, just be familiar with it, download it, print it out if you'd like, paste it in different parts of your room so that you're always familiar with it. Have it handy dandy with you, because if you miss a deadline, that's it's going to be a big problem for you. Okay. The other piece, of course, here is the approved residency sites. Now, I gotta say that this, I think, is really important. The approved residency sites are right next to the resources tab. It's labeled right up here on the resources tab that says residency sites. Now, these are the current CNM approved residencies. It, however, does not mean that all the sites in this portion of the portal is actually going to be posting residencies. That's different. Those that are going to be interested in accepting applicants for this coming application cycle will be found under the open residency position tab. Okay, but that being said, we've encouraged all the different clinics to provide some key information that you might be interested in. Some of them have uploaded their own clinic videos, so I really encourage you to check it out. Next slide, please. Now, this step 5, I just want to prep that there are multiple sub-steps here. Okay, so it's not just one single step, it's multiple single steps, and some of them are not dependent on each other, but it's always good to know that you can do certain things in step 5 that you can do without being dependent on the other sub-steps. And one of the first things, of course, that I'll emphasize here is that you want to make sure that you're aware of what the application document requirements are, and you can download them in the documents library. It'll give you examples of how to put together your personal statement, how to put together essays, how to put together your CV or your resume. Again, the documents library is going to be found under the resources tab. Okay, then the other piece, of course, is that as you are familiar now with how to put together your CV and your resume, there are actually templates in there. you can already begin preparing them. You're not dependent on waiting on any step. You can do it right now. You can begin putting together a generic personal statement, and it'll also give you an idea of what the different essays are. Get familiar with it. If you have any questions again, please contact the AANMC or your school residency director. One of the things that's also important is for you now to upload or request for your NCLEX scores. These are the scores that were probably mailed to you a few months ago, or if you've already taken NCLEX 1, and it doesn't have to be the official transcript. Whatever they mailed out to you is good enough. Then begin to organize your files. Always good when you upload your resume to also append your last name. As an example, if you're putting together a personal statement, it's always good to have a separate personal statement for each clinic you're actually applying to. It just makes your application pop more. Then as you're putting together your essays, make sure you append the clinic name, because if you're applying to multiple clinics, the last thing you want is sending an essay that's designed for clinic A, but actually you sent it to clinic XYZ. Okay, that's going to be embarrassing and telling for as far as the other as far as the site is concerned. And of course, make sure that you upload your NCLEX 1 score. Next slide, please. Okay, let's continue on with the sub-steps. One of the first and important sub-step here is for you to begin now the process of identifying your evaluators. Okay, now this is important because you need to have a clear understanding or an idea of which 3 faculty evaluators will give you the highest possible recommendation and evaluation. So you want to make sure that you are already keeping in mind who these persons you're going to be approaching. I've always advised students here at Bastyr to make sure that when they approach faculty, approach them either in person or through email, and also provide them a copy of your current CV or resume. It just makes it much more professional, if you will. Now, let's see. Where do you find this opportunity to request for your transcripts and for your recommendation? Well, it's going to be found right there, right next in the upper right-hand most corner. You'll have sort of your initials there, and it's a circle. If you click on that, there'll be a drop-down menu. As you can see, it'll say recommendations. Okay. Now, when you click on that, it'll open up to this particular web page, which will have your different tabs, which says recommendations, transcript requests, and also highlighted in blue are the different school registrars. Okay, you got to pay attention, because the school registrar, if you're at Bastyr, you'll have Michael Hall there as a school registrar. If you're with NUNM, you'll have your school registrar there, or with NCN, or with CCNM, or with Sonoran. Okay, so you got to pay attention. It's already, the information is right there for you. And of course, the next thing to do is do a click and request for the actual document itself. Now, you want to make sure that your faculty is aware that you've requested an evaluation from them. Normally, if you go through this system, the system will automatically notify faculty. Okay. It'll also inform them that they have to complete it by a certain time, but it's always good that you personally remind them that their evaluation has to be in by February 28th, which is a very firm deadline. Okay. Now you got to do this early, because don't wait for the 11th hour requesting for faculty to submit evaluations, because likely the faculty that you're approaching could be making evaluations for not only you, but for several other of your classmates. So just please keep that in mind. Next slide, please. Okay, so we also mentioned earlier as one of the sub-steps to start to put together your CV, your personal statement, and your essays. And you can do that and upload it under My Documents. Again, If you go to the upper right-handmost corner with your middle initial, with that circle with your middle initial there, in this case, this student is middle initial is NA. There'll be a drop-down menu that says My Documents. Okay. Now, if you click on that, you can add your documents. Now, this is not the application process itself. It's simply a repository of all your documents. And you can upload, change, revise your documents as you need. Okay. But as you're contemplating on the different sites, if you're applying to say 5, 6, 7 sites, always good to make sure that as you're preparing your personal statement, you append your clinic name as an example. When you're putting together a set of essays, put a clinic name in there, because some of the essays might require you to provide some of your specific areas of interest. And also you might also want to say why you're applying to the program in your essay. There's specific instructions. Download it in my doc in resources, and it'll walk you through that piece. Okay. Next slide, please. And finally, this is a step that tends to get overlooked by many students. Okay, this is an important step, which is putting your credentials order, because without your credentials order, you cannot apply to any site at all. So this is an important piece of document. And the way to do that, again, go under your that icon with your initials, go under recommendations, and then there's a tab down the set of, as you can see, there are sub tabs, and it says orders. You click on that and you start to upload now your evaluations. So for you to be able to submit an order, you must have your evaluations, and you must have at least 3 faculty evaluations and your school transcript. Now, what this does is that when you upload and submit this, what this does is that it notifies the committee that you're ready to begin your application to the different sites. So the committee will then collate this into a confidential file. And that confidential file, as I mentioned earlier, will have your 3 faculty recommendations and your school transcript. And then they'll upload it back onto your My Documents. It's going to be clearly labeled something that will say something like confidential file for XYZ. Okay, so this is an important step. You can't apply without your order, so bear that in mind. This becomes really important once we begin the application process in February. But for now, just keep this in the back of your mind, because for you to be able to submit your credentials order, you must have your 3 faculty evaluations. So we're backtracking now. Now you have to identify your 3 faculty evaluators. You got to notify them now before phase 2 begins. Okay, next slide. Okay, I think I will hand this on to Dr. Kevin.
Thank you, Dr. Garcia. Step 6 is complete a preceptorship. Now, this is highly recommended, although not required, although it may be required by some residency sites. I talked to one of the residency sites just this week who does require it. So you want to know whether that's even a requirement, because you wouldn't be able to apply to a site if they require it and you haven't done a preceptorship. So I'll repeat again, it's highly recommended that you do this. It really helps you to know whether you want to apply there, if it's a good fit. And that, before you apply, it's not only to learn about whether you want to apply there, but to gain a medical insight, practice insights. So it's not just for the purpose. You get some value out of visiting a site to do a preceptorship, and you might want to do this as you approach the winter break to arrange for a visit or a preceptorship to see if you want to do that. This is what makes the match system work, and that is for them to really get to know you and for you to get to know them to see if it is truly a match. And doing a preceptorship really, really helps with that. It also helps you to get to know whether you want to live in that community or not. So you won't know that really until you probably visit. I would recommend doing this with more than one site. Next slide, please. Step 7. This is registering for your credit card. Now, you will not be charged for your credit card will not be charged unless you apply to a site, so you don't have to worry about that. But it's important to do this early on. You go into the menu section in the portal, and you go to the top right in the menu, and you complete the form. And it's you do this early so that you don't have to worry about it. If you have any issues, it may be because your credit card isn't working. That happens every year. So let's do this really early. And if you apply early enough, you might find out that why isn't it going through? It's because your credit card wasn't working, because we can't really process this. Your application can't go out to the site until the credit card has worked for us. So make sure your credit card is up to date, that it's functioning. Next slide, please. Step 8, we've already gone through to a degree. Phase 1 is preparation. It's all about preparing for the application. So now's a good time to do your research and start working on your essay and your CV and that sort of thing, and talking to who you want to do your recommendations, your faculty recommendations, so that you can get right into phase 2. So the portal opens on October 9th. That's when you can go and look. So don't worry if you don't see sites. There'll be sites added for the match. There'll probably be sites added after that for the match. So keep looking, keep doing your research, because it doesn't mean that once October 29th has happened that we won't have more sites added. Phase 2 is the actual application period, and start early. That's been said many times, and I'll repeat it. Start early so that you don't run out of time. Use your career services, back to phase 1. Use your career services as Dr. Yana said, and ours is Debbie Taylor at Snorin, and find out who yours is, because it can really help you with your essay, and maybe make your CV look better, give you advice, and they have connections to affiliate sites usually, and preceptorships. Dr. Garcia said to know your timeline. That's important, because being on time is, don't be just in time, because being just on time, in time, might not be on time. There may be issues around the dateline. Make sure that you see if it's Eastern Standard Time, that you're doing that days ahead, and not try to do it just hours ahead, because you might run out of time. Also, technical issues. We always have technical issues, or the applicants have technical issues. People might be off on a preceptorship and then say, oh, I was in a preceptorship and I wasn't able to do it. I ran, and then we have to go through appeals, and we try to be helpful with appeals, but there's no guarantees, and don't count on that, please. The deadline to submit applications is a pretty hard deadline. So that's March 13th. And make sure all these pieces are done well ahead of time, so that you don't get surprises. And then it's downhill after that. It moves quickly, as we've said. The interview and match period it's going quickly. Make sure that your schedule is open during that time. Sometimes it's hard to schedule interviews when you have a lot, especially at the schools, but also maybe at the affiliate site. They may have vacations planned, or they may be closed. They might be too busy. So if you get to that early on, keep your schedule open, you're more likely to get that done in a timely fashion, so that you can have everything done in time for the match to happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Burnett. So just tacking along onto what Dr. Burnett was saying, it is very, very valuable. And unfortunately, when there are mishaps that happen, Angela and I are typically the ones that get the emails. And so just want to let you know, please, being early is being on time. We have received over the years that we've been hosting Match many emails from very anxious and frustrated students where your internet went out, or you didn't realize something was in Eastern time and you're on Pacific and now you're 3 hours late, or, like we have just seen so many different types of things come in where just a little bit extra preparation could really help stave that off. So just giving you a heads up ahead of time to try and be as prepared as possible. So that said, where do you get more information? So on the AANMC website, we have a residencies page that will typically link you back to the Simplicity portal. Most of the things you're going to need will be found either on the app that you have already downloaded, right? Everybody, I want to see you've all downloaded the app, right? So everything is going to be either on the app or on the website. And so that is really going to be your go-to. There are FAQs available if you do run into questions. And right now we're posting all of the videos that we've gotten from sites on Naturopathic Residency Week. So those are on Instagram, those are on YouTube. Just feel free to, now is the time to start getting excited about it, doing a little bit of back homework. Next slide. So upcoming events. So like I said, stay tuned. This is the first of several. We have showcases scheduled in November and December where the sites and/or residents will begin to start sharing about what they do at their different residency rotations. And so as part of that, this will be your chance to kind of get a snapshot of the different sites, hear from the residents and what they've found valuable at each of the locations, and start to formulate your own questions that you may have as well. And so you can register those at AANMC/events. That will definitely be something that I think is a valuable tool. These all will be recorded just as today is being recorded. So in case you're not able to attend both of them or you have to leave early, we understand that these are weekends and weekends tend to be very busy for people. But that's all going to be available to you. Next slide, please. So we're going to start on some questions. There was one that came in, how come NUHS, and I'm going to kind of add to that, the Puerto Rico school don't have residency directors. And if you're a student at one of those programs, what should you do? So the residencies are sponsored by schools, and each one of the schools that sponsors residencies is present today. So not all of the programs do sponsor residencies, which is why their staff wouldn't have staff specifically dedicated. That said, I know Dr. Smith at NUHS and Dr. Ramos both will be available to you should you have questions for residencies. You can also always email AANMC. Next slide, just so that we can have the email up for us. Residency@aanmc.org. If you are a student at one of those programs and you don't quite know what needs to come next, or you have some questions, at a minimum, you can email us and we will help get you pointed in the direction of an answer. So with that, let us start on some of the questions that came in. So question number one, let's talk money. So residency directors, I don't know who would like to take this question, but can somebody speak to the salary component for residencies, please?
Maybe I'll start. It's hard to say because I don't think we've actually done an analysis of what the average salary is. It really depends on the location, the particular site, what their residency salary is. Although the CNME has guidelines or standards for what the minimum is, not all residency sites, are at that minimum. Often you'll see them surpass that by quite a bit. So my recommendation is when you are looking at each of the residency sites through the AANMC portal, you'll have an opportunity to see what the salary is that they're offering, and you'll be able to make a judgment based on that.
Thank you, Dr. Carino. All right, so the next question that we have are how many spots are available for fall graduates this winter at each school?
We have one general medicine opening this spring, but there are affiliate sites that are doing off cycle, and they're available anywhere between now and the match process starts.
And there is one for CCNM Boucher over in British Columbia.
Yeah. So typically, the majority of the information we discussed today is in relation to the main cycle for folks who are graduating in May/June of 2024. So that's predominantly who this is geared towards. So if you are a student or a graduate that falls outside of that traditional May/June graduation, and you're interested in a residency sooner because you have already graduated, please reach out to one of the residency directors. They can help you further in that process, because there are some differences in the sites that are being posted right now. There is not going to be a match for those sites. They will just direct hire as the candidate comes through. So the next question we have is regarding GPA. So is there a recommended GPA to be considered competitive?
One of the things that I did want to comment on is that not all schools actually have a grade associated with their marks. So I believe, and Gary, correct me if I'm wrong, but it'll say achieve
I believe
competency
that's
or
true for Bastyr and
yeah, that's true.
UNM.
Yeah, that's correct.
Mhm.
So it's hard to say that there is a grade that shows competitiveness, although other schools do have grades. And as Dr. Saunders had commented on, it's not always the grades that dictate your competitiveness in the application process. It actually is the rounded out application, including what's in your CV, what your experience is, as well as the recommendations that come from your references.
Thank you. There's a question regarding year 2 residencies. Can somebody speak to that, please? And if there's any difference in the process if you're applying to a year 2 residency.
Which residencies?
If you're applying to year 2, second year residencies.
Oh, year 2 residencies, they generally are after the match. And at least for the last year 2 residencies, we generally have a separate application process. And now, if you are in a private clinic residency right now, it's possible that your private clinic residency will make a decision on whether to continue on your current year. So there doesn't need to be an application process. They'll probably begin the process of having some discussions with you and try to see if you might be interested in staying on. And so it can occur early. When I say early, like in January or February, because you're likely had just probably started your year 1 residency with them right now. So it'll take about maybe a few months for you and your current clinic to come out with the proposal and with a potential contract for year 2. Now, for the Bastyr residency program, specifically the in-school residency program, at least for Washington, we generally tend to wait after the match is done before we begin the process of accepting applications for year 2.
Thank you. So there is a question that came in about the school residencies. So earlier we discussed, and I know we're going to be talking about this in more detail at the upcoming site showcase events, but there is a question about the school residencies. And so how do those differ? What do you learn at a school-based residency versus a residency that's at an external clinic? What are the differences? So I don't know if there's somebody who would like to take that question on.
Let me try to answer that question, and of course, Kevin, Jasmine, and Lee can jump in as well. For me, I think what the key difference between a private clinic residency and a school-based residency is that in a private clinic residency, you're closer to understanding what it is to practice in the real world. So you're very close to getting a full understanding of how revenue is actually generated, how you actually make money, how you actually put together your patient panel in the future that will help you grow your practice. In a school-based residency, the emphasis is more on learning to work with students. So there's a strong teaching component to it, and not everybody is built that way. There are some students who graduate and become successful practitioners, but really have no interest at all in working with students, and that's not a value statement. That's more of just that's the way things are. And there are some students who just begin to discover themselves that, hey, I actually like working with students. And if you're that type of a person who likes working with students, then you definitely should consider applying to a school-based residency, because you're going to be having that opportunity to work with them. And of course, depending on the different school residencies, we at Bastyr, we schedule our residents differently. If you have any interest in that, I will just encourage you to email me and we can chat about it even more.
I would add that teaching makes you learn something even more. So when you're in the institutional residency, you're doing a lot of teaching with undergraduates, and it's amazing how when you have to put it into words and guide somebody else, how you get to know your subject better. And also you have more variety of practitioners that you're practicing under, and you might think, well, it's the same school I went to school at, but residents will tell you that it's quite different being with attending as a resident compared to as an undergraduate medical student, and you get something different out of it. You're more of a team. You're taking it to another level, and the didactic that you might experience at an institution will be different than that more apprenticeship style that you're going to get at a affiliate site.
Thank you. Angela, would you be able to put up slide 15, please, regarding the app? So there was a question about setting up the app. So we'll just leave this up there. Basically, go to the App Store and you upload the Simplicity Job Career application from your personal app store. And then you would go ahead and log in with your login credentials and you should be set. So I think it's not too very complicated, but if you do run into any issues, please feel free to email us at residency@aanmc.org and we can hopefully walk you through the process.
If I can just make a comment, Joanne, I just tried to get onto the app myself right now. And because I'm located in Canada, it actually didn't show that I was able to get on for some reason in this region. However, because I already had my profile saved, and I recommend you actually go on the Simplicity site first, or the before you get onto the app, because you'll have a username and password and be able to come in that way. But then when you're looking for particular sites, it'll show you, depending on your location, all of the different universities and colleges likely, and you're going to want to type in AANMC. Once you go to AANMC, then you'll be able to see what's available. So it's actually a two-step process. You go under the Simplicity Jobs, and you log in, and then you'll be able to type in AANMC in the search bar and you'll be able to get on.
Thank you, Dr. Carino. So there's another question, and this is one that comes in commonly. What are some characteristics or tips that can help set applicants apart? I see Kimberly is asking specifically about oncology. And so I think the greatest thing in any type of specialty residency is to demonstrate competence in what the site is working in. When you go and search, so as Dr. Carino just said, you can go and search at the sites, and underneath the site is going to be a description of what the site is looking for in candidates. Read that thoroughly, please. So if a site is saying that they want significant IV experience, or if they would like for you to have minor surgery experience or women's health experience, your resume and your experiences are going to need to meet what they're looking for. So if you are specifically looking for an oncology residency, demonstrate your interest in oncology. Why are you interested in oncology? What have you done above and beyond your existing education in that area? Have you attended conferences? Have you gone to an ONC-AMP conference? Have you volunteered? Have you preceptored? So you're going to want to make yourself shine as an applicant by showing that you have gone above and beyond. And so I think that those are the areas where I could say, yes, sure, you're going to learn additional skills in that residency, but you already have to demonstrate as an applicant that you're interested in this specific area. And what have you done to one, know that your interest is solid? Because a lot of times I know in life, it's very, very common that we think we're interested in one thing and then we learn about that one thing and was like, oh, I thought I was interested in that, but I'm not interested so much anymore. And that's okay. That's part of a learning process. But I think demonstrating to the sites that you have done some back, legwork and homework and really have demonstrated that through whatever means it looks like for you, but that you have created yourself as a strong applicant. And I'll let others answer to that as well.
I'll probably also add that this is not true for oncology only, but for all the other residencies and clinics that are going to be posting residencies in February, is to really just part of your due diligence is try to visit with them, and if possible, even precept with them. That's one way of you scouting around if what they do in the clinic. If the clinic dynamic is something that, oh yeah, this is exactly what I'm looking for. Because the only way for you to do that is if you're actually there, and if you precept there, especially if you precept there for more than a day, then it gives you an idea of what the dynamic is. And sometimes the dynamic is kind of off based on at least what resonates with you. And then you make that decision and say, well, on paper, this clinic looks good, but really it's not for me anyway. It's not my cup of tea, and that's fine. Then just move on and look at some other clinics as well. So I think that would, for me, I think just to dovetail on what Dr. Barnett had mentioned in his talk earlier, is that preceptorship is really key. It's not a requirement, but it's your way of getting the foot in the door, because if you're very interested in their clinic and they see your level of enthusiasm, they'll remember you. They'll probably even let you know that, say, hey, when we post our residency, please apply. They'll already drop those little hints and say they're really interested in you. So that's one way of scouting out your potential job opportunities as well.
And I'll just add that at least one site I know of is an absolute requirement, but in other sites it might be a relative requirement. But they really are maybe going to get that interested in you if you don't show enough interest to go out to the clinic and do a preceptorship, or at least spend some time shadowing and to demonstrate that. And one other thing that I don't think it has come up yet, I'm sure a lot of people have done this at their school, that they've talked to residents or former residents. If you're at a school, you probably talk to residents. What's it like? Did you like being a resident? Why are you doing this? Would you do it again? But you might not think to talk to residents from other schools, or to reach out to residents that have gone through other sites, affiliate sites. You might even ask an affiliate site if they could give you the contact information and talk to their previous residents to see what it was like at that place, because how the site might present it might not be exactly how it was experienced by residents. So that might give you a better, more accurate idea. Thank you.
Thank you. So I know we're coming close to time. There are a couple questions I want to make sure we get to. So one is, if just one of you could answer this, what happens if you don't pass NCLEX 2?
Take it again.
Yeah, you need to take it again, because you can't start your residency without passing NCLEX 2.
Right, but I think in some cases the residency may not wait for you as an
Right.
applicant. So can one of you speak to specific?
I can speak to Arizona, that there's an opportunity to apply for a preceptorship license. You have to go through the board to do that, and you may be more limited than when you were a student, but there may be jobs that you can do, shadowing that you can do at the affiliate site, or even at our school. We've done that with people who didn't pass boards. So I'll give them 6 months to practice boards, to do something at the school, to maybe TA. There's lots of options that you can do in the meantime while you're studying to take the boards again.
It will be at the discretion of the site that hired you as a resident, though. So that's the main thing to notice is, you do need to do your best to try. And I know we all study, everybody, they're hard, they are tough, but you do need to give your best effort to pass NCLEX 2 on the first go. And if you do not pass, that will be upon the discretion of the residency that you were matched at, whether they can start you as a resident or find, like Dr. Burnett said, some alternate pathways for you to take in the meantime while you're waiting to pass boards. The next question is a technical one regarding letters of recommendation from faculties, and should those be copied and pasted? Can somebody speak to the evaluation component?
There's a portion there in the evaluation form wherein it's a free text, box, wherein there really is, to my mind, no limit to what can be placed there. Now, in the evaluation form itself, the faculty evaluator is prompted to answer certain things about the performance of a student, but towards the end of that form, there are a couple of free text boxes that they can actually even cut and paste an entire letter of recommendation and put it in there.
Thank you, Dr. Garcia. Gary, there was a question regarding the UCI residency program. I don't know if you can type your answer in. Can you see the Q&A?
I can see that, but I'm not a good typist, so I'll just try to answer I'm going to try to answer the question. So the UCI Susan Samueli Residency. So this is a residency at Susan Samueli at UC Irvine. It is affiliated with Bastyr University, and it's an integrated medicine program. What's unique about this one is that when you get matched, you're going to get matched to Susan Samueli, but you're actually going to be a Bastyr resident. You're going to be assigned there, and you're going to complete your training there full time. And depending on your appointment, it could be a 1 year, it could be a 2 year, or even a 3 year program. It goes from 1 year to the next. But it's a year-to-year program, and you're essentially integrated into the team with Dr. Arvind Janab. And you get an opportunity not only to work with the NDs at Susan Samueli, but also to get to rotate with other providers, including the MDs and other programs in UC Irvine. So it's a great integrated medicine residency. There are some limitations to it in terms of being part of the team. And of course, they take into account that the licensing and the scope of practice in the state of California is a little different compared to, say, Washington or Oregon or Connecticut or Vermont. So, but you're integrated into the team, and you're assigned working with different naturopathic providers, including also have opportunities to rotate with some of the medical doctors, and also do some additional preceptorship with some of this programs at UC Irvine.
Thank you, Dr. Garcia. So I see that there was a question for NUNM here. If you can go ahead and email us at residency@aanmc.org, and we'll make sure that we get that question answered for you. And for everyone who took some time out of your Sunday today, I just want to thank you all for joining. I hope that this has been informative and helpful for you in your process of considering residencies. I know that we hear very definitively from current and past residents that completing a residency really made a difference in their confidence. It made a difference in their skill sets, and also in their future employment viability. And so that is something that I hope you all just really take to heart as you consider this process. I know that it is not exactly a walk in the park for folks, that you do have to put some effort into creating your CV, but ultimately you're going to need all of these things in the long run anyway. And so I see this as an opportunity for you to make a concerted effort to really brush up your CV, to brush up your interview skills, to do all of the things that you're going to need eventually at some point in your career. So with that, I wish you all a lovely rest of your Sunday. Please go and see the career services folks at the schools that you are students at. They can help you brush up your interview skills with your CV and everything else. So I hope that you take advantage of the resources that are available to you. And if you have any additional questions, Angela and I are always here for questions as they come up. So thank you all for joining us. And with that, we're going to say adieu.
Okay, bye, everybody.